morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome from Washington, D.C. Hope you are doing well. This is a wonderful autumn morning here in Washington, D.C. We have a very beautiful weather, about, I would say, 75 degrees this morning with beautiful rain last night after 15 days of drought that we had, and we were eagerly waiting for the rain. So wherever you are, I hope you are well and you are healthy and good with your family and fellows around you, and safe. Today, the conversation that we're going to have, there are a couple of initial rules that I want to mention. Of course, any webinar is very short. It's about an hour, 15 minutes. And there would be time for conversation, question and answer. But there are certain rules we all want to follow. First of all, please do not open your microphone unless you are asked to, so that the bandwidth and the sound is noise cancelled, so everybody can hear us well. Number two is very simple. This webinar is being recorded. And if you do not agree with this concept of recording, you can still decline the webinar. And that's okay with us if you are not allowing us to record. Number three, that there would be a very important issue, which is if you don't know where your Zoom chat board is, please look for it. We're going to be doing quite a few exercises because this is not a lecture webinar that Sakil will speak for 1 hour, 15 minutes. There will be discussion. We want to make it a dialogue forum so that you need to find your chat board where I will be asking certain questions, and I would like you to respond very frankly and openly about certain ideas that we're going to be discussing. I have a surprise for you all at the end of the webinar, but I don't want to give the surprise before we come to almost the conclusion. I think you'll be all happy with the conclusive surprise. If you have any question, please put them on the chat board about logistic or while we are going through the presentations. There is no PowerPoint. First of all, if you are interested to take notes, take note on your old style pen and paper, because I personally hate PowerPoints. I think PowerPoints are becoming obsolete. And slowly, if you don't know what you're talking about, PowerPoint's not going to help you. So to get organized, I prefer my own mind to get organized and try to speak from my heart. So there would be no specific pace of this conversation. There might be some jumping around from one topic to another. If you feel uncomfortable, you can always remind us on the chat board that I really want to hear that idea a little bit more. So it's more like a fireside chat. We all are sitting, hanging out on a Saturday afternoon near the fire, and having your tea, coffee. I see some of you already getting coffee. Rebecca's great display there. And, you can feel relaxed. This is not a class. There is no pass and fail. Nobody judging you. And very importantly, you all are accomplished people joining us. So I am not the expert here. I am like you. And I just want to share some ideas that might be helpful for you. Also, I want to hear your ideas that might be helpful for us as we grow as a community around the world. So with that, again, thank you all for joining. A little bit about myself so that people try to see where this is coming from. I was born and raised in Dhaka, Bangladesh. If you are joining from around the world and not from Bangladesh, no, Bangladesh is not India. We are not Indians, neither do we are Pakistanis. We are Bangladeshi people. The country was liberated in 1971, and we are independent nation. So Bangladeshis sometimes gets confused by Indians or Pakistanis or other nationalities, but it's 200 million people, Bengali-speaking people in Bangladesh. So look us up in the geographic maps and you'll find us very easily. Um, I was raised in Dhaka till my high school. So this is a very important aspect. Wherever you are in the globe that you are listening from, where you originally were from and where you are today, it could be very different. And I see many familiar faces already, folks who were born and raised in different places, but they are in a different place now. It all has its intention and hard work that takes people to different throughout their career path. That's very important aspect as we talk about international career development. We all heard about the story when we were little kids from our grandparents or parents that the frog thought the world is the water well. Do you remember that story? The frog who was inside the water well thought that is the world, but one day jumped out of the water well and saw there is a big world out there. So as you start thinking about international career development, I would ask you to think bigger, broader, that where you are, your community, your country, your nations, national identity, you need to really get out of all of that, not to forget, rather get out of all that mindset, narrow mindset, and really start thinking bigger. That I am part of a global citizenship, I am part of this earth, and I want to make changes not only in my own community but abroad. It's a foundational thinking in international career development. I was telling a little bit of a story about my own life. I think that would be repeated throughout this webinar because I think I wanted to make sure that everybody understand that you have to go through certain aspects in your career path and thinking so that you are successful in international development. So, born and raised in a developing country, although capital, and then settling in Washington, D.C., which is sometimes with arrogance, we Americans say the world capital. It's a very interesting path forward. How it happened throughout the last 30 years, part of that story I'm going to be telling all of you today. But before I do that, I do like to ask a very simple question to all of you. And it could be just a one-word response on your chat board. What really ignited you or made you interested about international career path? You might be doing whatever you are doing already. You might be happy with your job. Is it just a job? Is it other kind of thinking? What are you trying to accomplish that you are interested about international career path? So if you take a minute to think and put on the chat board your responses, any keywords, you don't have to explain in a long sentence. I will give 1 minute to everybody to think and respond on the chat board. What is it that is making you interested about international career development? Anyone on the chat board? I see everybody quiet, maybe thinking. Super. I see some very interesting responses coming. Exploring more, love of joy of learning from others within, already experienced working abroad. Spread your thoughts around the world. Wonderful. Akbar bhai, so great to see you here. Thank you. So you see already that folks are talking about their own feelings. There is an urge, and I see all four of them, whether you have been there or you are thinking about going abroad or working abroad internationally, there is an urge. And I always say that folks like us who has this urge, kind of nomad, kind of a gypsy blood in your body, that the road calls you. If you are home for a couple of days, when you wake up and you say, you know what, enough, I gotta get out, I cannot be home, the road is calling you. So there is definitely that of the international thinking. But really appreciate the responses that Farzana, you are saying, I want to know about all the options that are available. Rabi saying, trying to learn from different perceptions and different places. Kate is saying about passion for helping others, the highest potential. It's very interesting. I also see Suha saying, being able to combine my own personal experience with the professional goals with the like-minded people. This is a crisis, right? A lot of time we say that, yeah, we are talking with the friends. In Bengali, we say adda, gossiping together with the friends, but that is not satisfying anymore, like old days. Finding like-minded people is very difficult nowadays. And when you spend 5 minutes and after that you say, you know what, I don't want to be part of this conversation anymore. So sometimes you go around the world to find like-minded people, like we did right now. I see 18 people here. We have at least one thing in common that we are talking about, and we are interested. We want to talk about international career development. And that is like-mindedness, that we have certain things in common and we want to explore those ideas. Few things I want to start with, if you want to take note, you are welcome. There is definitely the upbringing and the raising in your environment, whichever environment you are being raised. Having a perspective beyond your own community is later. I actually debate a sentence that everybody uses, and maybe you may not like this, which may be provoking. Everybody says, think outside the box. All my life, I have debated that. I said, think inside the box. That's the first rule for me. Why? Is because I don't think after 30 years of my professional life, I still know what is inside the box yet fully. And that starts with me. What do I want? I think it's a big question, almost like the prophecies. What do I want? What am I? What am I doing here? It connects with your spirituality. It also connects with your community. It connects with your family. What I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to accomplish. Very important aspect. And it doesn't mean that you need to think bigger and start thinking about what's happening in the United States or Kenya or Tanzania or Sri Lanka. You still need to know what's happening in your own community, beyond your own household. And do you even know what is happening in your own household? Do we know every corner of it? Do we know what's happening with my family? How can I help? And the tendency to support and help and improve is inside the box. It's not outside the box thinking. It's universal. So if you know enough about inside the box, you can actually help outside the box quite a bit. So that's number one rule for us. Number two is, do I know enough about the context and the community that I want to support and help? Or is it just a job that I'm really worried about? Which is not a bad thing. I want to get a job abroad. I want to earn more money. I want to have a better life, standard of living. But it all will come with different struggles as we think about even going from one district to another. So think about, you are raised in a specific city and you are now going to another city where you are not raised, and you have to start your own job in a different city in the same country. There is no immigration, but there is migration. You don't need a passport, but you actually have to travel. You need to figure out where you're going to live, how you're going to have your structure, how you figure out how to go to the work. It may be a different culture in that community and in the city life. I might be raised in a suburb or a village, but I go to the capital city and the culture is very different all day, every single country in the world. The cities that I have worked in, the hustle is same. Everybody is struggling, everybody is running around, everybody is working 16 hours a day, and trying to make changes of their own lives and other people's lives. So are you ready for that kind of conversation? Are you ready for that kind of hustle? And the hustle is actually part of international career. And it's not just one day, and it's not easy path. So I don't want to scare anybody, but it's also part of the process that we need to think about in international career path development. The second part is education. A lot of people ask me, do I need to study international development to be in international development? Uh, it's great if you have done international development as part of your education, but I have seen hundreds and thousands of people who work in international development who did not study international development or international studies or international relations or international trade as their core education. What they have done is learning about other communities. What they have done is learning about other uh, structures and systems and other people in the rest of the world, that how things operate in the rest of the world, and where I am trying to go and try to do things and try to help other communities. Do I know enough about my community and about the community that I want to work for? So education is important, but at the same time, it's not all education in the school system. You might have an undergraduate degree, a master's degree, you might have a PhD. That's wonderful. But at the same time, beyond your academic and institutional education, we need to be really, really thoughtful about getting more education from your own studies and also taking the cultural competence, which is a very important one. I want you to take a note of this. That how am I culturally competent? So this is a little bit, maybe 2 minutes discussion that is necessary on the cultural competence part. And I'm going to give an example which may be very metaphoric. Even in the same country, there are discrimination. You might be from the same country, and people coming from different districts, different regions. There is a tendency to tease each other. In the US, we do. Well, folks from the South, or Texas is a different country when we talk about Texans. And we joke about this. Americans are, always kind of upfront about joking about this stuff. And there is also, like, when we talk about New Yorkers, we say, well, New Yorkers are different. I want to visit, but I don't want to live there. People who hustle in New York, they are different breed of people. So it's always there. But at the same time, am I respecting other people with different cultural background, different ethnicity, different mindset, different opinion? Do I have the competency and the patience to be acceptable to the rest of the world? I think cultural competency is a core issue for international development workers. So think about, you are actually going from United States to Africa to work first time in your life. And you don't know the language. You have not seen people like them before, maybe in TV. You have not eaten the kind of food they eat every day. And you're not going to be staying in your warm, nice, comfortable bed when you are working there every day. So are you ready for those kind of challenges? And it might sound really funny that, Shakil, you are talking about really irrelevant stuff, but this is part of the international development practitioners. Because when we go to another place to work, foundational daily life gonna be part of your, competency. Are you getting adjusted with the changes that is happening to you? And of course, if you are not happy, how can you contribute to help others to be happy? This is gonna be a very important aspect. If you are not really, comfortable, and you are not really making the process on your own to be successful. The third piece is very, very important, which is beyond the career, beyond the academic studies, what are the other competency areas that you want to build your competency so that you can be successful in international career path? First, to understand the international development as a whole. International development has many aspects. First, with very common knowledge that many people think that I am going to do international development in developing countries because they need help. Well, it's great. That's where some of this started, because economic development was one of the oldest historical international development programming. Also, international development programming worked for almost century on humanitarian assistance. What does this mean? People always had crisis, and other people came to help us. Doesn't matter where you're from and which country is having crisis. So if your country had a crisis recently, a tornado, flood, earthquake, other people surely came to help. And those are humanitarian assistances, refugee populations. And it's very important that we think about this perspective also. It's not just economic development or capacity development, it's also humanitarian assistance. But it's not always developing country. There are many, many countries in the world which are not developing country. They are mid-income country or almost semi-developed country, and there are development programming happening there. And it depends on the need of that country. And that's the next topic, which is, are you familiar with the demand and supply of international development? The country that you want to go to, or you start to look for a job, is it any country you want to go and work for? Or you have a specific region that you are very interested about? I want to work in Africa, I want to work in South Asia, I want to go in Eastern Europe or Latin America. Do you know enough about their need and the demand, what people are asking for? Just because they are developing country, assuming they have the same problem like us, like I have asked many people, and you'll be very surprised, my American colleagues, they still refer Africa as one country. Many, many colleagues, they don't even know Africa is a continent. Sorry to say this. And I said, no, Africa is not a country, and then you look at the countries, and then you talk about which part of Africa. Do you know North Africa has Arabic, French, and Spanish as language? West Africa has French, East Africa has Kiswahili, and South Africa has Zulu and also Afrikaan as language. The food is very different. The culture and language is very different. We might say it's all Africans. No, brother and sisters, they are not same all. Yes, they are all Africans, but they have different nationalities, identities, culture, and languages. Do we know enough about their culture and languages? I will pick on India, and I know folks are here from India on the call. 3,000 languages, for God's sake. You want to go and work in India? What do you know about Rajasthan? Do you think it's Bollywood? Do you know enough about Bihar? Do you know about Jharkhand? Or do you know about South India, Kerala, and Trivandrum? Do you know anything about this? Or do you only know Delhi and Calcutta and Bangalore? People are very different in different places, and they have different issues, and they want to deal with those and improve their. South Africa also has French, right? Some part of that. Sahara, thank you. So it's interesting that we really need to think about the larger perspective. So what is the conclusion of this part is really thinking about the cultural competence, the language issue, the cultural issue, the local demand, what they are looking for, what kind of development is happening in that context. We need to really get knowledgeable. And these are the things they don't teach us in a school or college or university. So you have to spend time on your own to read about this, to learn about this. And I always remind everybody, please take a note, browsing is not reading. Browsing is not reading. So if you see I'm Facebooking all day, that's not reading. You need to take time to concentrate and finish reading about those places. The next part is really gonna be very important, where I will discuss a little bit about the kind of organizations and the kind of jobs that are available in international development. But before I go there, I would like to stop for a moment. Any questions, comments from anybody? I think we have enough, small enough group today. I see 22 people. Happy to take on question on the chat board, or if you want to raise your hand and want to speak, you are welcome to also ask on the microphone. Anyone? Anything that is bothering you, or if you have a quick question that you want to ask? There was a very interesting comment, Jannat. As I live in Bangladesh, a developing country with very poor facilities, but some international career paths offer the prospect of higher standards of living, better work-life balance, and access to advanced technology infrastructure. That attracts me most. Sorry for late response. No, you are not late. You are fine. And this is definitely a very important aspect a lot of us always think about. Better standard of living, work-life balance, the technology and the infrastructure. Of course, some of these we try to take as given in developed countries, but sometimes we also may not know enough about what's happening. So our folks in Michigan, maybe there are some Michigan folks here. If you know, Michigan is a state in the United States. They had a storm and they had no electricity for 1 week. And my friends were looking for generators because they had no internet, because there was no electricity. And my next door neighbors, Baltimore and Washington, D.C., school systems actually are one of the worst school systems in the world. 50% children do not graduate from high school, 12th grade in the United States in 2023. So don't think bad or feel bad about your own developing country. We have our own problems and issues, that we are dealing with every day. What you see in Hollywood and Bollywood, that's not America. It's very different in the real life. I see no question. Anybody want to ask question, you are welcome, and the comments. Next part, as I promised, would be some orientation about the kind of international organization and the jobs. So first, with the definition of international agencies, I'm sure many of you are very familiar. There are multilateral organizations, there are bilateral organizations, there are INGOs, there are local NGOs, there are CSOs, there are CBOs, and I will explain all of that in a second. And it's very important that we understand how these organizations work before we just start applying for jobs, because each of these organizations has different way of operation and different skill set they need for their employees and the professionals that we are looking for. So who are the multinationals? Multinationals are like World Bank, like African Development Bank, Asian Development Bank. We have Latin American Development Bank, which is called IADB, International American Development Bank, Inter-American Development Bank. And these are multilaterals, meaning multiple countries and parties are involved in the operation of these agencies. Also remember, the multilaterals are donors, but also they are implementers. So it's not always that they are giving money, they are also doing some work themselves, right? So you need to really understand that somebody being a donor or a funder doesn't mean they are only giving money to you. They are also doing their own programs or implementation in different countries. But there is a foundational difference that multilaterals like World Bank, Asian Development Bank, they do not give grants to NGOs. they only give money to governments. So when World Bank works with Sri Lanka or Kenya or South Africa, World Bank is giving money to those countries' government. They will not give money to the NGOs. But when the government gets the money, and most of the time, by the way, they are not grants. This is also another difference you need to understand. They are loans with very low interest, usually 1%, 1.5%. Multilaterals do not give grants, very rarely. They give 30 years loan, 20 years loan, 15 years loan to the government. Now, why does this matter for me? I want to get a World Bank job, and I don't know the foundational aspect of how World Bank operates. Do you think you are getting the job interview right? Because you don't know how World Bank operates. So the foundational information is crucial. Who are the bilaterals? Bilateral means two party because it's bilateral. So it's two countries helping each other. So United States giving money to Bangladesh or giving money to India, giving money to South Africa or Kenya is a bilateral relationship. And in bilateral relationship, there are both kind of work. There is assistance, which is grants, and there is also acquisitions, which means loans or contracts. A lot of time, the mechanisms that I'm talking about, this might sound difficult because it's one session cannot help you to understand all of this. But there are different mechanisms that you need to get used to. When you are doing work and you are looking for a job at a development agency or an NGO, you need to look for the details. Who is the donor? Who is the funder? Where is the resources coming from? Because each of those resources actually has different mechanism of implementation and requires different set of skill. And this is also very crucial. Are you looking for a job on the donor side, or are you looking for a job on the implementer side? Meaning, if you want to get a job with an NGO or an INGO, it's a different skill set, similar but different skill set than if you are looking for a job in the donor side, USAID, FCDO, SIDA, Canadian SIDA, or Swiss Development Corporation, GIZ, any donor agency that you are looking for. Because one side gives resources and another side receives resources to implement. So the mechanism is different and the responsibilities are different. But there are certain aspects that I'm going to talk about in the next segment, in next 15 minutes or so, about the skill set that are very similar. Certain skill set would be needed in both sides of the story. So is this clear to all of you, especially about the bilateral and multilateral organizations? Anybody has any question about these two? All right. So INGOs and local NGOs. What is the difference? Anybody knows what is an INGO and what is a local NGO? Anyone? There might be folks here who work for INGOs and local NGOs. So anybody want to speak up?
Yes, hello.
Yes.
Okay, so I see a couple of voices, one at a time. So who want to go first? Ichona, you want to go first?
Okay, thank you so much. I think a local NGO is a non-governmental organization that is registered within the country in which it is operating. But an INGO is an international non-governmental organization which might be registered, let's say, in Switzerland, but has several chapters in different countries. For instance, Save the Children is an international non-governmental organization, while the local NGOs that, let's say in my country, Zimbabwe, will be considered the local NGOs. Thank you.
Good to see you, Tichona, and representation from Zimbabwe. That's wonderful to see you after a long time. Hope you are well. It's interesting because the example Tichona gave is a very important one. Save the Children as a global alliance of NGOs, and each chapter. So if you look at Sri Lanka or Zimbabwe Save the Children, they are chapters. They are also independent bodies, but they are part of a larger global alliance. And they want to join as part of an alliance. They do their own work in different countries. They are known as INGO because they are globally organized. Now, one very recent example is BRAC. BRAC used to be a local NGO in Bangladesh only. Now BRAC is operating in 22 countries around the world. So from a local NGO, BRAC became an INGO recently, even though the origin was in a developing country. So you also see that it doesn't matter. Yes, most of the cases that INGOs started in a developed country, but then there are examples now that also developing country NGOs are expanding in other places. Thank you so much, Ijona. That was a great example. But there are even other examples of organizations. There are something called CSO and the CBOs. These are smaller civil society organizations, CSOs or CBOs, community-based organizations, which could be in your local community. They don't even serve the entire country. They might not even cover the entire district. They might just serve a local community, your local sub-district or an union or in your local neighborhood. They are CBOs, community-based organization. So, for example, in the US, we have something we call soup kitchen. People who are homeless, we have people who are having difficulty in their life, we provide food for them. And the people who can afford, they support those soup kitchen to provide food for the needy. They are community-based organization. They do their own local fundraising and the food fundraising, and they provide the needy with the resources they need. So there are examples of community-based organizations everywhere around the world. There is also CSOs, which does some work nationally. In your country, if you see a CSO that is interested to do advocacy work for a national campaign on eradicating child marriages or the gender bias or the raising of your educational institutional quality or improving the wages, minimum wages, there could be advocacy work, there would be community protest or raising the voice for a democratic country. There could be community, especially the CSOs, which is civil society organizations, who takes a lot of networking and advocacy role for improving the standard of the country. So the reason I'm having this conversation with you is to give you a broader picture of there are many, many different categories of organizations that you can look into when you're looking for international jobs. And within these organizations, the structures are different, the kind of operation they are doing is different, the way they operate financially is different, their employment structure may be different. So with that, I want to go into the skill set that you require. But before I do that, again, any questions or comments from anyone? I see some new guests joining and I see some guests leaving, which is okay. I think if it is not really synchronizing with what you expected, it's all right. So the next conversation is really crucial. How do I build my career path, or how do I build my skill set to be aligned with international jobs? I started with a very simple technique, which I told you earlier, that you are interested. You need to be inquisitive. You need to be really interested about other countries, other communities, the problems and the solutions that are happening in other places. If you are not interested, and I would use a word to provoke you, if you are lazy, then it's not going to work, because international work requires not being lazy. If you are comfortable in your bed, I want to rather have a good meal and sleep, international development may not be good for you. Because those of us who took this as a career path, we rarely slept. Doesn't mean we don't sleep. We do have a very different kind of lifestyle, and we enjoy that. That's why we are here, and we like to be part of the global communication and the conversation, and also really be interested what's happening, and did we make a difference in people's life through my work, and that's the accomplishment. Did I change anybody's life today? The skill set are really crucial. It's really yes, Dion, thank you so much. We will be doing a little bit of because the group is small enough today to kind of do our own kind of round robin. After I finish, maybe another 15-20 minutes. We have 1.5 hours, so we have another 30-45 minutes or so before we finish. We'll do a round robin for sure. Thank you. So really interesting aspect. First aspect is that regardless, again, I have high respect for every single discipline that you have studied. Somebody might say, oh, I only studied education, or I have my master degree in English, or I have history as my subject. I did banking and finance. How can I get in international development? In international development, there is job for everybody. This is the beautiful part of the international development world. There is so many aspects of international development that you would be surprised that your discipline is gonna be helpful for all the work that you are trying to do. But there are certain skill sets that you really require. Number one, yes, it will be shared. The recording will be shared, sure. The first skill is project management. Do you know project management? And I say, yeah, I am managing projects. That's not what I mean. I would like you to have project management as a core subject, and you need to learn this by heart. Because every single international development job you're going to be doing, either at home or abroad, you need to manage projects. That's not optional. So either you work for the donor or the implementer, you have to manage projects, and you need to learn project management. The second part that would be very crucial is understanding the fundraising and the grant proposal writing, which is quite crucial, because either you are giving money or resources, or you are receiving money or resources, but people are not going to come to you to give you money automatically. You have to raise funds. You have to ask for the resources. So this is a very competitive world, right? Most difficult task, other than asking the dad or mom for money, although mom and dad always also don't give money just because you asked, the most difficult task in the world is raising funds. Opening somebody's wallet by asking them that I'm doing some great work. Can you give me some money? Yeah, thank you. You are doing great work, but I have no money to give you, or I'm not interested. Would this work if we just ask somebody to give us money? It would not work. You have to go through a really scientific process to be successful in fundraising. So understanding the global funding mechanism, the funding mechanisms, understanding where the resources are, what are the requirements to receive those resources, and how do I get ready to tap into those kind of resources? Am I ready to do that kind of fundraising? And once you receive the fund, do I have capacity to manage the fund? That's also become part of the project management issue, because you need to learn how to manage funds. There is a very recent phenomenon that is happening globally There is a conversation called localization. It's a global policy change that is happening. There will be more resources will be given to local NGOs as a policy by many donors. But one question I raised to the donor community recently is that if I have not managed $5,000 in my life, if you suddenly give me $1 million, how do I know if I can manage $1 million? Because I have not seen $1 million before in my own life or my own organization. So do you have systems in place in your organization and in your capacity as an individual to manage resources? Just getting money is not enough. And then how do you manage that resources? So fundraising, fund management, grant proposal writing are core competencies for international development professionals. Third one is quite crucial, is network. This is the biggest one I think people suffer, and really I have seen many professionals coming to the US who has worked in international development but has not been successful joining international development community, even with long-term international development experiences when they move to US. Why? Because they failed to build a network here. Your previous network may be helpful, but not so helpful when you are trying to get a job in the US. You need a new network because network is everything. You know, sometimes we joke about whose photo is in your office, meaning who you know. And it's the more crucial thing than ever. And, you know, it might sound funny. Facebook friends are not your network. Those are acquaintances, although Facebook was very clever to call them friends because that's how they wanted to market it. But it's acquaintances. But among your 5,000 followers on your Facebook, how many are your friends? Do you actually can call? If I call Akbar Bhai right now and I say, Akbar Bhai, I need this, I know he will help me because he's not only a Facebook friend, we actually collaborate. If I call Kate and say, Kate, I need some authentic information, can you look for me? Kate actually will do that. I know because we have built that trust. So networking also comes with trust issue, which you need to build. And just because you need something from me once a year, that doesn't build that trust. Only time you contact me when you need something. That's not relationship. So you need to build relationship with the trusted network as you develop professional network around the world before you go and look for opportunities in other countries. So people say, how do I contact people? Well, there are many resources to contact people around the world. You have LinkedIn, you have social media, you have Instagram, you have Facebook. I think it's more than ever the easiest task to look for people. When we were growing up, there was no cell phone. There was no, the only way was business card. And I always tell this story that the best gift that my father gave me when I grew up as a professional was his roller desk. When I came back after my studies to Bangladesh and I started my career path, he said, I have a gift for you. I thought, you know, my father, I was so happy that, okay, maybe some money, maybe some land, maybe some asset. And he comes with a big, I don't know if you know this anymore. There is something in the library you see with the roller desk that have the book catalog, old catalog drawers. He had this from his 50s, 1950s. And he said, I give you a key of this. From today, you are the keeper of this database. There was no computer database. There was no LinkedIn. And do you know what he had in behind every single card? This will be the most amazing story. I picked up any card. The back of the card is blank usually, right? The white side. And it said, where did he meet this person? And why he met this person? The date of the first meeting and the topic they discussed with shorthand notes. Extraordinary thinking in how the network and trust is built. And you continue to really build that relationship over time. And it's always a transaction, never forget that. And I learned this from also Akbar Bhai when he talks about leadership. This is a big leadership skill, which is not only taking, but also giving. Everything is a transaction, and you need to really have those kind of transaction happening. If it's just one way, it's tough. You need to really have both way transaction happening. And it's not about money. Do you trust me? That I trust you. Do I give you authentic information? That you also give me authentic information. So it's going to be very important as you network. So this was the third thing. First was project management. Second was fundraising. Third was building a network around the globe. Number 4 is the biggest mistake that I see, not understanding what kind of job that I'm looking for. This is the biggest problem that I see. I will take any job overseas because I want to leave my country. That's not a way to look for a job. You need to really find your niche. Are you good at writing? Are you good at speaking? Are you being a good trainer? Are you a monitoring and evaluation specialist? Do you understand statistics well? Do you write proposals? Do you do project management? Are you good at financial, management? Do you understand how to do anthropological or historical research? Do you understand research methodology? There could be many, many aspects of the international development work. So you need to find your niche and really develop your skills and the bio data or CV or resume based on your skill set. I cannot tell you how many CVs I review every week throughout my life and helping people try to improve their CVs. Just telling me that you can do A, B, C, D, E, F, G is not a CV. A lot of people can do that. If I give them the job, can you move stone from A to B? Sure, I can. But you need to tell me how. And because you moved the stone, what actually happened? So there has to be accomplishments in your CV. What have you done that changed something? So it's not an input-output CV, I say. It's more on accomplishment and outcome CV. And it's going to be very important that we also think about the education, the training, the job that you had, the experiences. But another big aspect that I see, nobody wants to write. Everybody wants to speak. And of course, we are so good at speaking. Sakil is now speaking for 1 hour. But how many lines have you written in last 1 year? That is not copied from somebody, actually your own writing. Remember, anything we say now and we quote or say is because we read somebody else doing. Everything I'm saying today is not my own invention, by the way. This is I learned from others. And the reason I can learn is somebody has written about it. So if you don't write, you don't exist. You actually do not exist if you don't write. So if you want to leave a legacy, a lot of people ask, I want to really do something for the world. Well, start writing, because you only thing you're going to leave is black and white after you are gone from this world and other people are going to read about it. And how can you write? If you don't read, you cannot write. So again, coming back to foundational skill set, find time for yourself to read enough, read about everything that is interesting. And again, not browsing, real reading. And it's like a running exercise. A lot of people say, how do I really make a habit of reading? You cannot really start reading 1 hour each day, the beginning, if you are not used to. Just read 5 minutes every day. Try for 1 week, 10 minutes, and read only the topic you like. It could be a novel, it could be a journal, it could be a newspaper, it could be a magazine, anything. But you need to make a habit of reading. The last one I would remind everybody today is languages. International development work, you really need to learn English well, because the common language globally is English. And if you learn a third language, that's amazing. I admire you if you know more than one languages, and you really can change, make a big difference. And I have seen it over and over again in my life, that when I went to a country that I did not know well, and I have not been there before, but one sentence in their own language right away opened the door for building a relationship. They were so happy. Even my pronunciation was not right. Even my accent was not right in that language, but I tried. That already made a respect for me from them, that while he's trying our language, he's really, I think he's trying to understand how we do it and what we do. And that opened, and a smile opens a big door for you to be part of that community. And you cannot build trust without such openness in your community. And I would finish with one last advice, which is really building your own leadership skill. Because a lot of time we believe that we don't have leadership skill. We have a lot of skill that are in the shadow. And we also see that a lot of cultures that we come from, there is a teasing culture, right? So when you try to show leadership, other people will pull your leg. Oh, this guy is, trying to show off, or this guy knows too much. And as soon as you hear that, you start kind of shying off, that, oh, I'm not going to talk anymore, or I'm not going to say anything anymore, I'm not going to do anything, I go in the back seat. You cannot do that, because the leadership skills, we all have certain skills in leadership, and we need to nurture them. And it could be leadership in speaking, it could be leadership in writing, leadership in your own actual project management. Whatever the subject matter is, you need to be really good at it, so other people can follow you and learn from you, and you also continue to learn on those topics. So with that, I'm gonna try to kind of wrap up at the moment and open up for any Q&A or other comments, and any advices that others have. We have about, other than us, I think still there are 15 people on the line, 15, 16 folks on the line. So this is now an open forum, Q&A and comments. Anybody is interested to open their mic, raise your hand, or you can also put your chat on the chat board. And I thank you all for listening today. I hope this conversation was helpful, just to get a sense of a first time trying of the international aspect of the work. I have not even gone to other issues. A lot of people would ask, I want to get a job. Well, there is immigration, there is visa, there is all sort of other logistic. I don't even want to go there, because those are far later on. First, you need to prepare yourself to get a job that you are interested to get a job in international development. And are you ready to do that yet? And of course, all other aspects comes with it. The family, the immigration, the financial aspect, budgeting, movement from one place to another. There are huge, huge undertaking, and it is life-changing for sure. And are we ready for that kind of journey? If you are, we are with you and we'll support you throughout the process. And this is the first only of a series of webinar that I would like to do in the coming days, to pick up different topics of international career path, as many requests comes to us. to help and support and mentor on the international development work. So with that, I thank you all for listening. Now open for questions or comments.
Hi, Shakil.
Yes, go ahead.
I'd want to comment on the issue of being confident. I think for global professionals, you need to be a very confident person, very fluent. At the same time, you also need to be a person who is accommodative in terms of being able to work in different cultures and environments. So that is something that you really need to be prepared for you to work in the global arena. Otherwise, you need to be ready for that. Thank you.
Ichona, can I ask you a question? You talked about confidence. How do you build confidence?
I think you build confidence through knowing what you want to do or what you want to say. So when you know the things that you want to share with others very well, you'll be confident to do it in front of others. So in most cases, it's about knowing what you want to say, what you want to do, at the same time, um, repeating or practicing what you really need to share with others, so that you become comfortable sharing with others or standing in front of others, because in this case it will be an international or a global arena. So you need to know your stuff very well.
Super,
Thank you.
super. So you use two words, and I'm gonna repeat them for everybody. First, you need to become acquainted with the topic. Then you become comfortable. Then you become confident. Nobody becomes confident overnight. That's something also a fact. I think sometimes we say, is there a, I go to the pharmacy, buy a pill, and I am confident tomorrow. Not gonna work. It doesn't work that way. There is a path of confidence, and you use the best word, which is knowing. Unknown is the most important aspect of confidency, and you go through that path step by step. Knowing the unknown is the first step of a confidence building. So please use that path to know, and really appreciate your response. I think Isha, you had a hand up.
Yes,
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for the invite and for your time for this. Thank you for this insightful session. I just have a couple of questions around the application letter. What is your advice to write a good one? Because when we start to write about things, it becomes a handout, and it gets long. And because when we are writing, we feel everything is important. Oh, this is my achievement, I have to write all 10 of them. So what's your advice on the right size and also the right content of a resume, okay, the application letter?
I think you mean the cover letter, right? So
Yeah. Cover letter, yeah.
right. So when you are writing a cover letter, there, and definitely maybe this would be a session by itself in the future. But I think one cover letter, there are a couple of important issues writing a cover letter. It's a summary of your CV. It's not the CV. So people who read the cover letter, a lot of the senior professionals now only read the cover letter, because if the cover letter is not good enough, I'm not going to go into the resume, first of all. So the cover letter need to have one paragraph summarizing kind of your highest accomplishments and education in a very nice, simple way. And you don't really need a lot of jargons in that cover letter. Simplistic cover letter that explains your education and your kind of career path. You don't need to mention all the jobs. in a chronological order in the cover letter also, because that's in the resume. So, but I can get a one paragraph, which we call bio blurb, is gonna be a very important part of your cover letter. The second part is that how do you actually justify that you have the skill set to be competent for the job description they have advertised. So a lot of time I see generic cover letter copy and paste as if they're sending the same cover letter for every job because we don't have time. My question to anyone who is sending that kind of cover letter, if you don't have time to write a cover letter, do you think you are really interested about this job? So, if you are writing a sloppy cover letter, to me, you are not interested about this job. You are just throwing CVs in different places. I want your dedication when you are writing a good cover letter. So one paragraph, really important summary, one paragraph, why you think you are the best fit for this position. And those has to come from the job description itself. Yes, Tichona, thank you so much for that. I hope that was helpful, and definitely we want to talk more about this in the upcoming sessions. And there is definitely cover letter more than 2 pages are cumbersome for folks to read and so on and so forth. Grace, I will come to you in a moment. Before that, I want to respond to Farzana. She's writing, I'm a third-year economics student. What would be your advice for me to do to prepare for building an international career? First of all, Farzana, I am an economics fellow also. My first degree and second degree is in economics and development economics. So good to see another economics fellow here. One most important thing I would say, because you just in your third year, you need to get into internships. This is very crucial for you, either in an NGO or an INGO or international agency, to get acquainted with the work environment and the workspace and the sector. This is going to be a very crucial aspect, which is not common in our culture. I don't know if you are from Bangladesh, but if you are, then definitely looking for an internship in the third year and also the fourth year before you finish your undergrad, gonna be crucial to really get into the international development career path. Also starting to understand what kind of jobs are available and understanding what does those jobs require, what kind of prerequisite or skill set that you need. And you can do your own self-assessment. I think this is something I want to do another seminar or the webinar for. How do you assess your own skill set? Self-assessment. I think every day morning we look at the mirror, we brush our teeth and comb our hair, but do you actually reflect on our skill set? What do I have? What don't I have? And how can I build my skill set that I don't have? And that has to be a very organized plan to do so. I hope this is helpful for you. Grace, you want to go next? Grace, can you hear us?
Yes, Sakil. Thank you.
Welcome.
Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Sakil and team. I am so grateful for the invite, and thank you for your continued support to the team. I would like to make a comment regarding the project implementation process. You talked about many aspects in regard to project work and management. And in this case, I just want to make a brief comment on project implementation. When we are conducting a project or doing a project or implementing a project, one of the things that I have learned with time is that it's very crucial to take note of when activities in the project implementation plan have been scheduled. and such activities should be implemented right in time as per the project implementation process and plan. And as we do that, of course, we need to collaborate with a number of stakeholders, both at the local level, the communities where the project is being implemented, but also with the key stakeholders, our donors and international partners. And then as we do that, you'll also notice that it's important when an activity has been implemented, we give accountability, that is financial reports in time, because it's something which is at the heart of the donor. When an activity has been implemented as per requisitioned funds, then financial reports normally follow as and when necessary, because there are some organizations where funds for the next quarter will not be released until funds for the previous quarter have been accounted for. So it's important that whoever is implementing a project accounts for funds that have been provided quite well and on time. And then finally, the narrative reports. These normally go hand in hand with the financial report, because as you provide a financial report, it's also important that you provide the narrative report. What happened when you implemented a particular activity? What lessons have you learned? What challenges were there? What are the future plans? All these are at the heart of the donor, because it helps them to know that a lesson has been learned, there's a difference that is being made in a particular community or society where the project is being implemented. And when you do this in collaboration with different stakeholders in their respective capacities, then you find that at the end of it, a project will be very successful, no matter what the length of the project is. So that's what I just wanted to add to. Thank you. Thank you, Sakil.
Excellent, Grace. Thank you so much for detail. I think these are very important aspects that all of us need to always remember. And it does relate to some of the issues that you mentioned, the project management ideas, the writing capacity, reporting, all of that are relevant. And we need to build those skill set over time. None of this happened overnight. So really appreciate your feedback and also the responses and the comments. Anyone else? Any last minute comment or questions for us? All right. I hope it was helpful. And I know it's already late evening for some of you. Before you leave, there is I mentioned to everybody, the actual information that I said in the beginning of the webinar. There is a surprise for everyone. So I'm gonna put the surprise on the chat board, and then before you hang up the Zoom, please go to the link to make sure you get the surprise gift. So there is a free surprise gift. This is a $300 book I am giving you for free, and this is part of our building relationship for you, that this webinar was free, the book is free for you, that we are not really looking for money from you. We are trying to give back to the community, that there is a bigger, skilled, professional network around the world who will be interested about our work. And as you all know, that GCFIL is a social enterprise. We do work around the world. As you are interested, keep looking at our website, which is also quite resourceful as we develop the skill set of the professionals. We have courses that are offered on project management and grant proposal writing that might be interesting to you. Please watch out for the advertisement and also the next cohort that are coming up in early next year, that we are forming the next cohorts for your own learning purposes. These are all certificates that are provided from GCFIL USA and trained by the trainers from around the world who knows what they are training for. So really appreciate your time and energy. If you have any, you do not have access to the link of the file. Hold on 1 second. That's why I asked right now that do not go away before we open the link for everybody. Here. It says editor. I think I need to give editor access to everybody. And then here is the share, copy link. Okay, let's try another link here before you go away. I'm giving another link. Try again, please, before you leave. Can anybody confirm they can go into the link and they can download or see the document? Kate, can you see the document and you can download? Try downloading.
Yes, yes, please. I can.
Oh, super. If 2 people confirm, then it's confirmed because others may be having problem with their own computer. That's not problem with us. So please save this link and do not just leave this PDF book on your computer folder. Please read the book. And we will be coming back to you in a couple of weeks with more information about international couriers. Hope to see you all soon. Have a wonderful evening and wonderful day wherever you are. Take good care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.